Well, thank you for coming, Emily.
Yeah,
I tell you.
absolutely.
So, the city has embarked on this comprehensive plan, which is going to be an extended period to understand. And we've started phase 1 and 2 and 3 of this. So, why don't you just back up and just tell us a little bit about what is it we're trying to achieve, and what has the process been, and what do you anticipate that looking like going
Mhm.
forward? And then I'd like to drill down on maybe some of the stuff you've been hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be
Absolutely.
here and to share more about Imagine Rocky Mount.
Sure.
I'll always take the opportunity to do that. It's a really exciting project. So
Yeah.
I will back up first to just elaborate on what a comprehensive plan is
Right.
and why we are going forward with this effort to adopt a comprehensive plan, or a
Right.
new comprehensive plan, rather. Essentially, a comprehensive plan is a guide to growth and development within the community. It
Right.
creates a long-term vision for how you want to grow and develop. It creates a series of goals and strategies and implementation steps in order to achieve that vision.
Hmm.
The City of Rocky Mount has an existing comprehensive plan. It's called the Together Tomorrow Comprehensive Plan. It was adopted in 2003, so it is aging.
Right.
The city has implemented a number of recommendations from that plan, but 21 years later, now it's time to revisit, understand what our needs are today and where
Right.
we want to go moving forward. So it's really important that we establish that vision so we can all move forward together. And it's important to note that comprehensive plans are community driven. So, of course, we use existing conditions, data to understand where we are as the foundation for the plan, but we're really relying on the public to help us identify what our needs are and where we want to go. So the biggest part of this initial phase was initial input from the public and reaching out and collecting their feedback and getting guidance from them.
Right. So, well, let's talk about that. Well, first of all, I want to stop and say, look, it's important because a lot of people ask me, why is that important? Well, what's important about it is for the city council and mayor, and I suppose administration, leadership in the city, to put a stamp on a direction that we're trying to go and where we're trying to go. And that helps with development, because if I'm a developer and I'm coming in from another town, I want to see kind of where the city's trying to go, what they consider to be important, because it suggests that, that's the pathway that's the least resistant. And it's also what the city is trying to encourage at some level. And I know the comprehensive plan takes in all kinds of other components and facets, and we're looking at all of the stakeholders at play. And so I want to hear about that, because I know you've been doing that with a lot of folks. And so what are you hearing that folks would like to see in the development or continued development of the city of Rocky Mount?
Yeah. Well, we're hearing a lot of consistency from the
Okay.
public.
Well, that's almost disappointing for a show.
Well, I'll back up a little bit and talk about what that engagement process
well, let's do
looked
that.
like.
Sure.
We had a number of ways that we attempted to engage with the public. The first was we hosted a series of pop-up meetings, which is
Okay.
where we popped up
Yeah.
at various community events that were already scheduled.
Yeah.
So
And I went to one and it poured down rain. And I did get a towel out of it, but I'm not sure you got a
Yeah.
whole lot of inquiries there.
Well,
but
luckily we had people trying to stay dry under our tent. So while they were there, they were
captive audience. I love it.
they were sharing some thoughts. So that was great. So yes, we attended Downtown Live. We were at the farmers market at Juneteenth. Several business proprietors allowed us to come into their businesses over lunch
Okay.
and talk to their customers. So that was wonderful as well. So we participated in 18 pop-up meetings
Okay.
during the month of June. Well, actually, we started in May through the
Okay.
month of June.
Okay.
So that was
18 in the course of 2 months. So that's, only 40 work days in there. That every other day you're doing something, really.
yeah. It was quite a lot
That's
for
aggressive.
our team, and
Yeah.
but it was great. It's always good to have an excuse to go out and
Sure.
and communicate and get feedback from the public. We also hosted 4 visioning workshops, and these were citywide workshops.
Okay.
We had 2 during the week. In the evenings, and then we had 2 on a Saturday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, to try to accommodate schedules as well as we could. And that was an opportunity for us to reflect on the feedback that we had received during the pop-up events,
Mhm.
and then to start taking that initial step forward. So now that we know what some of our needs are, what do we do first? What do we need to prioritize? And then thinking about Rocky Mount's future, how do we get to that vision? What are
Right.
some of the steps that we need to take first? So we asked the public to weigh in there.
So how many people participated? You had at least, by my count, 22 because you had 22 events, right?
Yes. So we had 700
Okay.
pop-up event participant interactions. So 700
That's
people,
very significant.
yeah, leaving over 1,200 comments at the
Mhm.
pop-ups. We had 100 participants at the visioning workshops, which
Okay.
we had hoped that we would have higher participation, but
Yeah.
truly, with the numbers that we had, we were able to have really great conversations
Okay.
with everybody that attended. So those were really fruitful conversations,
Mhm.
and I would still call those a success.
Oh, no question.
Absolutely.
But I'm like you. I would have thought that number would have been higher. But look, you're asking people to take time out of their day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I intended to go, but something came up. There are a myriad of reasons as to why somebody might not go. So
Absolutely. I know I'm a mom with 3 boys, so I completely understand
Sure.
that life it's tough to schedule sometimes. So
Right.
yeah, so we're certainly happy with
yeah,
the participation
absolutely.
we got.
Okay, well, great. So 700 folks in the pop up, another 100, so 800 folks,
Mhm.
and just that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And we also had an online survey.
okay.
We have a project website that's still live now
Okay.
that provides information about the current status of the project.
Okay.
And in the month of May and June, we had a live survey.
Okay.
So we had over 250 residents respond to that survey as well.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Well, that's great. So, what did the data tell you? I mean, so, and did it evolve? I mean, did you feel like after the pop-up surveys that you got basically the core of the information, or did it morph a little bit as you went on? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think we were hearing a lot of the same things, and
Okay.
we're seeing several themes and needs really coming to the top as
Okay.
we continue to talk to residents. When we asked what people love about Rocky Mount today, they love their neighbors, they love the sense of community.
Their mayor, I'm sure, was number one on that, right?
That did come up. It did.
Must have been my mother then.
They love the river and the
Right.
trails and the parks and rec system
Right.
that we have in Rocky Mount. They love the local businesses and the restaurants here. When we ask them to tell us a word or a phrase that they want to describe Rocky Mount in 25 years,
hmm
they said community, growth, housing, and downtown. Those are 4 things that kept rising to the top. When we asked about areas of improvement, residents felt that public safety, jobs and workforce training, parks, playgrounds, open space, environmental sustainability, and
Mhm.
housing affordability and housing options were
So you have
very
any
important.
stratification of that in terms of levels of participants that answer that? Because I've been surveying since before I was mayor, asking what's the number one issue. Public safety is number one, number one, number one, number one. It's been number one, will continue to be number one, probably forever. And that's not just a Rocky Mountain thing, right? But 6 years ago, 69% of folks responding said that was the number one issue. That's down to 43%, still number one by a long way. So I was just curious if you had any kind of statistical data behind that. I'm just curious.
Yeah, we sure do.
Well, how about that? And I didn't even know that. We
Yeah.
didn't even prepare for this interview.
For the statistics, looking
Yeah.
at the online survey,
Right.
we asked residents to indicate how important a series of topics
Right.
were.
Okay.
And public safety, public safety ranked very important or
Right.
somewhat important to
Okay.
most of the respondents. So we do have the percentages of folks that
Sure.
responded, and it's something that we heard over and over again in the
Yeah.
pop-ups and during
Well,
the
that
visioning
feels like
workshops.
to me it's even gotten a little bit better. So anyway, but that's good to hear.
Yep.
So great. Okay, so those are the primary issues that you're hearing about. Was there any color provided to that? Any kind of, what does that mean? Public safety means a lot to a lot of different people. Community, downtown, what does that mean to folks? Any kind of real feedback or color associated with that?
Yeah, it does mean a lot of things, and that's
Yeah.
something that we have to sift through and
Okay.
understand. what type of safety are you talking about? Is it traffic safety? Is it
Sure.
pedestrian safety? Are you talking about crosswalks and sidewalks and the ability to walk safely from your
Right.
house to the grocery store? Or is it more police presence in neighborhoods? Is it addressing vacant or dilapidated structures and the way that
Right.
feels in your neighborhood? So that's something that we have to tease out. And how do we integrate public safety throughout all of the recommendations in the plan to make sure that that's something that we're addressing as we make these recommendations and as we, implement other types of recommendations.
I'm so glad to hear you said that because, we talk about these things as if they're silos, and the reality is they're not. They're all integrated. Public safety goes over all. Downtown development really affects the whole, and so on and so forth. So what were the other issues? So public safety, we said downtown. Any specifics as it related to the downtown comments, redevelopment, I suppose, or more services, or all the above?
Yeah, I think all of the above we're
Right.
hearing. We want more restaurants,
Okay.
well-maintained public spaces and places to gather, not just as a community, but just more casually with people that you're with. Where can you
Right.
sit and enjoy the public spaces downtown? We heard about well-maintained buildings downtown and the aesthetic of our commercial structures downtown as well.
Okay. All right. So what were the other issues again? I stepped all over you. I think since the community was what people liked. What were the
Yeah.
other improvement areas that
They mentioned
the mysterious they?
the public
Yeah.
mentioned like public safety, as we discussed,
Right.
jobs, workforce, training opportunities, parks, playgrounds, and open space. This is something that they said they love about Rocky Mount, and clearly they want more of it
Okay.
because they enjoy what we have today.
Okay.
Environmental sustainability and housing affordability and housing options is something that we're hearing a lot from the public as well. So the statistics back that up as well.
Sure.
That housing affordability is a challenge, and there are a number of residents living in Rocky Mount that are cost burdened, renters and homeowners that are
Mhm.
paying more than 30% of their rent and their mortgage. More than 30% of their income on
yeah.
rent and mortgage. And so that's really hard for them to maintain. And so we have to keep that in mind as we make recommendations for
I'm
housing.
assuming that's post-tax income too, but because that makes a difference. But anyway, yeah. So 30% is a
Sure.
significant piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
And they're asking for more housing options and more types of housings within neighborhoods too. So not just single family development, but can we incorporate duplexes, triplexes, courtyard type of housing, and multifamily within neighborhoods too. So neighborhoods are more diverse
Right.
and can accommodate people with varying incomes and a diverse range of residents. So
I'll be excited to see what that looks like because, as you spend some time on the planning board. We come to council. Planning board usually will approve something. It's not unusual that the existing neighbors don't like a change that looks like maybe a duplex or a triplex or an apartment within their community. But yet we're seeing that that's exactly what people are asking for. So it'll be interesting to see how we marry those two together. And I know they can't make all people happy all the time, but that's frankly something I didn't expect to hear.
yeah. Yeah, honestly, I was interested to hear that as well and,
Right.
and happy to hear that. And, when we're thinking about increasing density in our community, we have to think about what the context of that density is. Is it, does it have good access to parks and recreation? Does it have good access to our transit system? Are there sidewalks? Is it close to convenience goods and groceries? And if that's the case, then we do want to have density there because, those all provide services and amenities to the folks that are living there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. So what else is the survey showing at this point in time, and what do next steps look like?
The survey is showing us that the greatest needs for our neighborhoods, not just the city as a whole, but when we think about the neighborhoods they live in today and want to live in the future, safety again is coming to
Yeah.
the top. Walkability, they want to be able to walk in their
Okay.
neighborhoods, walk to their friends' homes. They want to
Sure.
walk to the grocery store. Housing, trees, and green spaces in neighborhoods are as well. So as
So
we
that would
think,
suggest density, really, more of a downtown setting kind of arena. And okay, well, that's interesting.
yeah. So we're interested to keep talking to people because we just finished phase 1 of engagement, but we are not done. We have a lot of engagement left to go. Phase 2 of this project involves synthesizing what we've heard. And we're in the process of that
Sure.
right now to understand what themes are coming to the top and what direction we want to go with the plan. But we need to report back out to the public and let them know this is what we've heard. And then based on that, this is the vision and these are the goals and the themes that we've identified. What do you think? Are we headed in the right direction?
Mhm.
Do you think we need to make any adjustments before we move on? So getting feedback from the public before we take that next step is really important. And we want to keep talking to people. So we have encouraged folks to invite us to their board meetings or their club meetings if you're in a book club or a cycle club or whatever it
Yeah.
is. We'd love to come talk to you about Imagine Rocky Mount generally, or if you have a specific topic in mind, we'd love to come and meet you where you are and just continue these conversations to understand how those needs and topics can be reflected
Sure.
in the plan.
Well, that's great. Will there be any input in terms of maybe other surveys of what does it take for a community to attract people? The folks in terms of business and entrepreneurial types or whatever it is that maybe we would like to see Rocky Mount grow more of. Is there any kind of overlay or intention to do that, or is that something maybe we can talk about?
Yeah, I think that's part of the conversation is
Right.
how do we attract people to Rocky Mount? There are a lot of businesses in our community that want to attract employees
Right.
to live here in Rocky Mount rather than on the periphery or in our surrounding communities. So what types of amenities and services do we want to have here in Rocky Mount so people want to live here, they want to stay here,
Yeah.
and enjoy everything Rocky Mount has to offer? So,
That's been a concern of mine. We just announced 1,100 jobs, being created in the area, and I'm super excited about that. $1.5 billion. We've got other companies in town, Cummings being one, that are reinvesting in the community by building additional square feet, footage, I guess, and hiring additional people. But none of that means anything to the community unless we create an environment where people want to live. We've got to create that live, work, play environment that people want to come to. And I point out to QVC all the time what a tragedy that was, that the fire, we lost those jobs. And it was terrible. I mean, there were 900 jobs, but only about 300 of them lived in Nash and Edgecombe County. I mean, that's a third of that employee population. And, if you split that evenly between the two counties, it's 150, which is an economic impact, but it's not as significant as it could be. And so part of the benefit of creating jobs is to have people live here, because that's who buys food at restaurants, groceries, go to the movies. That's what creates the experiences that a lot of us want to be able to participate in. And so we've got to build that. And so part of that's internally, understanding what it is that we need to, what I'll call recruit the keepers, the folks who are here. And then how do we bring in other folks, and what environments do we want to try to make that happen? And then, obviously I think we need to probably talk to our employers at some point. What is it that their employee base is looking at? I mean, I've tried to talk to numbers of folks in the community and just find out where people are living, where they're commuting in from, and how do we make a difference? And, there is no silver bullet and there is no silo, right? It's all. So anyway, those are my thoughts. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, interesting. I think just creating a vision, when folks see that Rocky Mount has a new vision
Sure.
and a collective path forward, I
Right.
think that makes a lot of difference. And, if we're all trying to achieve the same goals and we have articulated implementation strategies to do that, we
Right.
are headed in the right direction. So that's what we aim to do with Imagine Rocky Mount.
Well, that's fabulous. So how long will this process take? I mean, we've really just started. You've just started, and you have, or your team has, and you've now got this kind of response, which is statistically significant. I mean, I know people listening will say, well, that's not really a lot, but how about this? A survey for all of Nash County for a political thing only takes 500 people, and that'll give you a margin of error of plus or minus 3%, depending on who you interviewed. So that's a lot of people, actually. And it's amazing and scary how accurate that information can be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We intend to continue engaging with the public and asking their feedback as we move along.
Right.
We anticipate that this plan could be adopted by the end of summer next year, 2025.
Okay.
So once we get a final draft prepared, we take that plan to the planning board, and they serve as a recommending body to the city council. And then ultimately, city council reviews, and they ultimately will decide whether to adopt the plan. And when it is adopted, it becomes a guiding document. So it's something that is referenced for rezoning requests, because comprehensive plan will have a land use element that will guide where we grow, how we grow, and what that growth looks like. And so they'll use the plan for guidance for rezonings. They'll use it for guidance when we're talking about capital improvement investments. Where do we want to invest our money? And also just policies in general. So it serves a guide, which is different than our land development code, for example, which is regulatory. But those zoning regulations are influenced by the recommendations in the comprehensive plan. So it's possible that we'll see updates to our land development code once this is all adopted, and we have recommendations in the plan to accommodate that.
So who will get to, that analyst, I guess, really, how are those recommendations going to be made? I mean, how do you take this data, overlay that on terms of your land, or create a land use plan to come up with this visionary statement and bringing everybody along with you? So that's fairly complex. How are you going to get to that place?
It is, and it'll involve a lot of back and forth with our consultant team. We're working with a team, AECOM. Their office is based in Raleigh, and so we've had a lot of coordination with them leading up to this point, and we'll continue to do so. And they have a lot of experience in comprehensive planning within our region. So, they understand what the land use trends and trends generally are that impact land use and the growth and development of communities. And so they'll be taking that professional knowledge that they have to help inform, but then just based on the needs and the priorities that the public is laying out for us, we'll be taking that and turning that into something that's more tangible for recommendations. So again, we're going to start with the vision and overarching goals, check in with the public. Is this right? Are we headed in the right direction? And then if we are, we get confirmation, then we'll keep diving deeper, and then ask for public to weigh in again and say, okay, now that we've dived even deeper, are we still on the right track? Are these the right steps to accomplish this goal?
Right. Okay. Well, good. So what am I missing? I mean, that feels like a pretty good overview of where we are. We have just embarked on what you've told me is almost a year-long journey, and with a lot of back and forth. And so there'll be, I guess, plenty of times for the public to be able to participate, either comment on or otherwise. And so I guess we'll see drafts at some point that allow us comment periods. And will there be public hearings? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah. We don't know exactly what that looks like.
We're feeling our way through. That's a perfectly acceptable answer,
We generally know. Of course, there will be public hearings with the planning board and city council adoption. But long before that, we'll have open houses and workshops and opportunities to engage with the public. So absolutely, please stay tuned and for opportunities to continue engaging. We have a project website that has up-to-date information and will always show opportunities for engaging. And then, we're reaching out too to make sure that people know what's going on through social media. We've been using text messaging to inform people, which has been working really well. During the pop-ups, I saw several people who said, oh, this is what that is. I got a text message about this. And so they were excited to engage in person after getting that message. So excited that that's working and helping us reach more people. So we're doing our best to get the word out.
Well, look, thank you so much for breaking this down for us, and thank you for being here and all that you do for us in the city. And I'm just excited that we're moving forward, and we'll see what the future holds for us.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.